I want you to really picture something for a second. Have you ever been deep in the woods, truly off the grid?
Oh, yeah, where you're just miles from anything.
Exactly. Far from any cell service, where the highway noise is completely gone and you just, you stop walking.
Right. And that absolute silence just kind of hits you.
It really does. The trees are towering over you in every direction, and you get that sudden, very primal realization of just how incredibly small you are.
It is a profound vulnerability, honestly. I mean, we spend our lives in these perfectly curated, climate-controlled boxes.
Right, with our smart thermostats and Ring cameras.
Exactly. We control the lighting, the temperature, the security. But then you step into an ancient forest, and suddenly you realize you are entirely at the mercy of a landscape that, well, just doesn't care about you at all.
It really doesn't. And today we are heading deep into one of those landscapes for our deep dive. We're going to unpack the personal accounts of a search and rescue officer who spent 18 years navigating the vast, incredibly rugged wilderness of Appalachia.
That's a long time to be out there.
18 years. His name is Randy Cruz, and these accounts were originally shared on the Lighthouse Horror Channel. So we're looking at his actual field transcripts today.
And to set the baseline here, I think we have to contextualize what search and rescue, or SAR, actually looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, because it's not all action movie stuff, right?
Not at all. Most of this work is entirely mundane. You're looking for a hiker who twisted an ankle 3 miles from the trailhead.
Or someone who just forgot a map.
Right, a hunter who lost his bearings after the sun went down, or an elderly individual who wandered away from a rural property. It is really about methodically following physical evidence to find confused, cold people.
But our mission today is to look at the exceptions to that rule. We are looking at what happens when expert trackers people whose literal trained profession is to find answers and follow evidence hit a wall of the truly unexplainable.
And the overarching theme in Randy's records isn't about, ghosts or monsters or internet folklore.
No, it's way more grounded than that.
It really is. It is about the deeply unsettling gap between having a reasonable explanation and having the correct explanation.
No, I like how you put that.
Well, in the cases we are looking at, the physical evidence simply refuses to align with the basic laws of our reality.
So to understand how things can get so weird, let's talk about the terrain itself for a second. Appalachia isn't just like a local park.
No, it's thousands of square miles of dense forest, steep ridges, abandoned mining shafts, and deep, unmapped cave systems.
And the margin for error out there is just razor thin.
It is. A sudden drop in temperature or a single wrong turn can literally be fatal. But the foundational rule of that terrain is that geography and physics dictate that a body in motion leaves evidence.
Right, you snap a twig, you leave a footprint.
Exactly. If someone makes a mistake out there, they leave a physical trail.
Which brings us to a massive failure of that rule. Because in October 2014, a young couple in their early 20s, Tyler Morgan and Emily Davis, they just vanished.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, they were on a day hike near a remote system called Black Hollow Cave in eastern Tennessee. And when they don't return by dark, I mean, how does a team even begin to tackle that kind of acreage?
Well, the protocol is highly standardized. The vehicle is found unharmed at the trailhead, which rules out an accident on the drive up.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then teams fan out in grid patterns. And initially, the search yields exactly what you would expect.
Breadcrumbs.
Right. Volunteers find Emily's water bottle, and a bit later, they find Tyler's light jacket.
And those items are forming a rough path leading directly toward the cave, which is, the main attraction out there anyway.
But then the situation shifts. Randy and another volunteer, Anthony Norton, get assigned to a very narrow, treacherous ridge running south of the cave.
An area with loose rocks and steep drop-offs.
Exactly, and they find blood.
Oh, wow. I mean, finding blood has to completely change the energy of the search, right?
It compresses the timeline instantly.
Yeah.
The urgency skyrockets because you're no longer just looking for lost hikers who might be, huddled under a tree.
You're tracking an active medical emergency.
Precisely. Now, Randy noted it wasn't heavy arterial bleeding, but it looked like someone was walking while injured.
I'm putting myself in Randy's boots here. You have a blood trail. You follow it for nearly half a mile along this ridge.
Which is a long way for someone who is bleeding.
It is. And the trail disappears, reappears on leaves and walks, but it's leading you forward. And then it leads directly to the edge of a cliff.
A sheer drop.
Yeah, a drop of several hundred feet into a ravine filled with boulders and the thick brush. And the very last drop of blood is sitting on a flat section of rock, literally less than 3 feet from the drop.
And that blood was later confirmed to belong to one of the hikers. So someone was bleeding, walking to the edge of this sheer drop, and then nothing.
It's like doing a connect-the-dots puzzle, but the last dot is just hovering in midair.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, I have to push back on the physics of this. Gravity is gravity. If you fall several hundred feet into a rocky ravine, you leave a crater.
You absolutely do.
You break thick branches on the way down, you leave gear, clothing, something.
And that is the exact mathematical problem the SAR team faced. They brought in drones. They sent personnel down into the ravine on ropes.
Did they find anything?
Nothing. They combed the entire area below that cliff face before sunset, looking for the impact zone. And they found absolutely zero evidence of a fall.
Wait, no bodies?
No bodies, no torn clothing, no damaged brush.
So they just vanished. I mean, how does a professional tracker even process that?
Poorly, honestly.
Right.
It takes a profound psychological toll. Because as human beings, our brains are deeply wired to seek closure.
We want the why.
Exactly. We navigate our daily lives through cause and effect. You drop an apple, it hits the floor.
Right.
So when physical, tangible evidence, like a trail of human blood, contradicts basic physics by simply ending in thin air, it strips away our fundamental understanding of reality.
It induces a massive amount of cognitive dissonance.
It really does. And that is why, 12 years later, Randy still drives out to that ridge on his own time. His brain is desperately trying to resolve the missing variables to make the math work.
Wow. But, if the terrain can seemingly swallow people while completely ignoring the laws of physics, it makes you wonder what else is hiding out in those isolated pockets.
It definitely opens the door to other anomalies.
Right, like what happens when nature breaks its own biological rules?
And we see a perfect example of that in the summer of 2018. It actually starts with local agriculture, about 20 miles north of Randy's station.
Okay.
A property owner finds 2 of his goats dead near the tree line.
See, my first thought there is a predator, like a bear, a coyote, maybe a bobcat.
Yeah, that's the logical assumption.
But predator kills are messy. You have torn fences, massive signs of a struggle, a lot of blood, and the animal is usually, partially consumed.
Exactly the opposite happened here. These goats hadn't been eaten, they hadn't been dragged, they were just lying there, and the only injury on each animal was a precise set of 2 puncture wounds on the neck.
Just 2 punctures.
That's it. And almost no blood was present at the scene.
That is bizarre.
And over the next 2 weeks, this escalates dramatically. A hunter finds a dead deer with the exact same wounds. Then a massive wild hog is found. Then a calf.
Okay, so the local rumor mill must be going absolutely crazy at this point.
But it was. And it becomes incredibly difficult for investigators to separate local folklore from actionable data.
I can imagine. So what made them take it seriously?
What compels the authorities is the emergence of multiple unrelated witnesses reporting the same secondary anomaly.
Right, because people start reporting giant bat-like silhouettes flying near a huge 30-foot cave entrance in the area.
Yes, and that changes things.
I mean, imagine you're a local farmer, you don't know the guy 3 towns over, and you both separately report seeing dark shapes, larger than any known bird in the region, leaving the cave at sunset.
The convergence of independent witnesses is a vital metric in any investigation.
It means it's not just one person making things up.
Exactly. When unconnected people report the exact same highly specific anomalous details, you have to look closer. So the SAR team goes out to survey the cave.
You go inside?
They did. They find nothing inside, but they note an overwhelming concentrated animal odor and piles of unidentifiable droppings outside. And dead deer with puncture wounds nearby.
But to me, the craziest detail is that the sightings always peaked around the full moon.
That is a very strange correlation.
And Randy himself is out there at dusk doing a final survey with a small team, and they personally witness it. Massive, unidentifiable dark shapes crossing the valley in the fading light.
It's hard to dispute when the investigators see it themselves.
Right. But if you think giant bats are weird, nature drops another strange anomaly just 3 years later. Winter 2021. The luminous wolves.
This one is fascinating. Over the span of a few weeks, campers, drivers, and hunters start reporting packs of 5 to 8 wolves.
Just normal wolves.
Well, the witnesses all describe the wolf's fur as having a faint blue-green or silver sheen that literally glows when the moonlight hits it.
Randy and another veteran SAR officer, Sarah Williams, are sent out expecting to find nothing, right?
They fully expected an empty goose chase.
But half a mile away on a ridge, they see them. 6 or 7 massive wolf-like animals.
And Randy's description of this is so specific.
He describes the fur reflecting the patches of moonlight, quote, like fish scales or bird feathers. Luminous silver blue.
It's incredible.
I mean, it sounds like Mother Nature dropping a sci-fi DLC expansion into the Appalachian Mountains.
It really does.
But could this just be a weird optical illusion, like frost on winter coats catching the light in a weird way?
An optical illusion might explain one sighting,
Yeah.
sure, but not sustained observation by trained professionals.
That makes sense.
It is entirely possible that there is a rare, uncatalogued genetic mutation causing a unique refractive property, perhaps structural coloration, like we see in certain bird feathers or butterfly wings.
Oh, right, where the structure of the feather bends the light.
Exactly. It could be present in the winter coats of a specific local pack. But even if that's true, it raises a serious question about the hubris of modern science.
Because we think we have everything mapped and tagged.
We do. We operate under the assumption that we have neatly categorized every biological mechanism in North America.
But clearly we haven't.
Right.
Yeah.
When veteran outdoorsmen cannot identify an animal they are staring right at, it reminds us that the natural world still holds unread chapters.
Interestingly, both the giant flying shapes and the luminous wolves didn't attack humans.
No, they didn't.
They simply existed for a few weeks and then vanished back into the ecosystem without a trace.
It's like the deep woods allow these biological anomalies to exist as long as they stay isolated.
And that leads perfectly into my next question. What happens when you introduce human technology into that kind of extreme isolation?
That's where things get truly inexplicable.
I want to look at one of the most structurally bizarre accounts in Randy's file, the time-traveling radio.
Yes. Now, the setup for this case is fairly routine. They're searching for a missing 70-year-old man.
Who, just for the record, was found totally fine 2 days later.
Right, thankfully. But during the initial search, Randy and a volunteer named Gordon Bryant are miles deep into the heavy forest, far from the campground.
And they hear a broadcast.
Out of nowhere.
They track the sound to a fallen tree, thinking, oh, someone dropped a modern two-way radio, but they find an old, weathered, scratched-up AM portable radio, the kind with the physical analog tuning dial.
And it is playing a pristine, crystal clear, real-time broadcast of a 1990s talk radio show.
Which is insane.
Randy, having grown up in the 80s, recognizes the format immediately. He's hearing the news stories from the 90s. He is hearing the sports scores from the 90s.
He even hears commercials for businesses that went bankrupt decades ago.
Yes. And it's not a recording skipping or looping. It's playing in real time like they are live in the studio.
Randy picks it up, turns the tuning dial, but no matter where the dial is positioned across the bandwidth, the exact same 90s broadcast keeps playing flawlessly.
Which shouldn't be possible.
Okay, let's really debate this. Because my first thought is this some bizarre pirate radio station? Maybe a hobbyist bouncing a signal off the atmosphere, playing old tapes?
It's a solid theoretical approach, I'll give you that.
Yes.
From a purely technical standpoint, atmospheric bounding, also known as skywave propagation, where AM radio signals bounce off the ionosphere, is a very real phenomenon.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Ham radio operators use it all the time to cast signals across continents.
Right. So someone is just broadcasting an old cassette tape from a basement in Ohio, and it's bouncing down into this valley in Tennessee.
But the physics of skywave propagation don't support what they experienced.
Why not?
Because atmospheric bounding is incredibly unstable. The signal fades in and out, you get heavy static, and it requires precise tuning.
And this wasn't like that.
Not at all. This radio was playing with zero static. And more importantly, it overrode the entire frequency band. No matter where Randy turned the dial, the same broadcast played.
Oh, wow.
That defies the mechanics of how an analog receiver functions. But the true anomaly that completely dismantles the pirate radio theory is the timing.
The walk back to camp.
Exactly.
Randy carries this impossible object with him for hours as they continue searching. And the signal never degrades.
It just keeps playing.
As night falls, he heads back toward the command post. Now, I want you to picture the command post. It's a clearing filled with modern vehicles, humming generators, bright floodlights, and digital maps.
It is a bubble of modern civilization.
Right. It represents the observable modern world. And the exact second Randy's foot crosses the boundary into that clearing, the radio dies.
Just dies.
It doesn't fade out into static like it lost a signal. It just instantly goes completely dead.
And it never made another sound. They took it apart at headquarters later. There were no hidden MP3 players, no hidden digital components, no secret batteries.
Just a broken radio?
It was just a broken, dead, rusted radio.
So how do you even classify that?
I think it forces us to look at a recurring theme across these cases, which is isolation.
The isolation of the deep woods.
Yes. The physics-defying blood trail, the uncatalogued animals, the time-displaced radio broadcast, they exist perfectly, almost comfortably, in the deep, isolated wilderness.
But they instantly dissolve the moment they are introduced to the modern observable world.
In quantum mechanics, there is something called the observer effect, where the mere act of observing a phenomenon changes its outcome.
Right. By measuring it, you alter it.
Exactly. It is almost as if the deep woods operate on a localized physics engine that literally shuts down when too many people or too much modernity try to look at it.
A localized physics engine. Wow. Well, if the woods can distort physical objects in time, what happens when an entire environment is corrupted?
That brings us to a very dark place.
Yeah, we are moving from physical anomalies to an intense, unexplainable psychological dread triggered by a specific space, the wind chime house.
This occurred roughly 6 years ago. The missing person was a 9-year-old boy named Ethan, who vanished from his family's tent at a campground.
And they search all night.
The whole team is out there.
The next morning, Randy, along with 2 other veteran SAR officers, Linda Harper and Gordon Bryant, find this completely overgrown, abandoned access road.
And it's incredibly steep, blocked by heavy fallen trees, and it goes right up to the summit of a ridge.
Now, logistically, this makes no sense.
None at all.
A 9-year-old child in the dark isn't going to choose to climb a grueling, blocked-off path that requires intense physical exertion just to navigate.
Yet that is exactly where the search leads. And at the summit, overlooking miles of forest, they find a decaying, sagging, abandoned house.
The paint is entirely gone.
The roof is partially caved in.
But the detail that jumps out to me is the wind chimes. Dozens and dozens of bizarre, mismatched objects hanging from the porch and the surrounding trees.
It wasn't normal chimes.
No. Twisted wire, rusted steel, heavy objects hung upside down from thin strings. And carved into the woodwork of the house are strange geometric symbols patterns that no one on the team recognizes.
The physical state of the house is bizarre, yes. But the crucial data point is the immediate psychological reaction of the searchers.
What happened?
The moment they step onto the property, all 3 of these hardened veterans are hit with an overwhelming, indescribable sense of, well, evil.
Evil.
That's the word they used. Randy noted that it didn't feel abandoned. It felt occupied by something deeply malignant.
Okay, I have to ask, though, is that just the creepy environment playing tricks on them? You see a rotting house with weird symbols in the middle of nowhere, of course you're going to feel spooked.
I get that, but it goes much deeper than just being spooked. We have to analyze that reaction from a neurobiological standpoint.
Okay, how so?
SAR officers are highly trained to read environments for survival. They spend decades learning to notice micro changes in terrain, shifts in weather, and anomalies in wildlife behavior.
Right, they are basically human sensors.
Exactly. When humans enter a space, our amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fear processing, scans for threats before our conscious mind even engages.
So their brains were picking up on danger signals they couldn't articulate yet.
Precisely. The unnatural silence, the lack of animal activity around the structure, the bizarre placement of the objects, perhaps even a subtle structural wrongness to the angles of the house.
Their pattern recognition was just screaming at them to leave.
When 3 veterans simultaneously experience a profound feeling of dread, it is their survival instinct processing alarming environmental data.
But they can't run because Randy sees a face in the grimy window of the cellar.
It's Ethan.
Yeah, they break down the cellar door. The room smells of mildew. It's filled with old boxes, and they find the boy huddled by a support beam.
Was he hurt?
Physically, he is fine. Dehydrated, but unharmed. But the psychological aftermath is where my brain just short circuits. He had complete amnesia.
Complete amnesia. He remembered walking into the woods near his parents' tent and then waking up in the cellar.
That's terrifying.
He had absolutely no memory of the grueling climb up the ridge, entering the house, or how long he was down there.
How does that even happen?
This is a classic presentation of psychogenic amnesia, which is a documented neurological response to extreme, overwhelming terror.
So his brain just shut it out?
Yes. When an experience is too traumatizing for the human mind to process, the brain essentially walls off the memory to protect the psyche.
Wow.
Whatever compelled that child up that ridge, or whatever he encountered inside that deeply unnatural house, was severe enough that his brain simply deleted the recording for his own survival.
And the physical evidence of the house just adds to the mystery, because Randy tried to look into the history of the property later.
Did he find anything?
The ownership records were incredibly murky, changing hands multiple times on paper, but nobody at the county actually knew anything about it. And exactly 1 year later, the county just quietly condemned it and demolished it.
Just got rid of it.
Yeah, they bulldozed it into the dirt, just erased it.
It leaves a lingering spatial memory on that ridge, an architecture of dread that somehow manifested, traumatized a child, and was then violently removed from the landscape.
You know, we spend our lives surrounded by GPS, smartphones, and satellites taking high-res pictures of our driveways. We are completely addicted to scientific certainty.
We really are. We think we have the whole map filled in.
But Appalachia reminds us that there are still massive breathing blank spots on that map. Randy Cruz spent 18 years tracking through those woods, and his ultimate realization is the core takeaway for us today.
Which is that having a reasonable explanation for something is not always the same as having the correct explanation.
Right.
We try to force these anomalies into reasonable, comfortable boxes. A bear attack, a ham radio prank, a traumatized kid wandering off.
Because the alternative is too deeply unsettling to sit with.
Exactly.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as you go about your day. Think about the Appalachian Mountains themselves.
They're ancient.
Geologically speaking, they are some of the oldest mountain ranges on the entire planet. They have been standing there for hundreds of millions of years. They were ancient before bones even existed on land.
That's a staggering amount of time.
So what if these bizarre anomalies we talked about today, a trail of blood vanishing into thin air, fauna that glows in the moonlight, pockets of the forest where time just glitches out, what if none of that is supernatural at all?
That's the real question. If we consider the sheer, incomprehensible age of that environment, it is entirely plausible that this primordial wilderness operates by an ancient, older set of natural laws.
Rules that we don't understand yet.
Rules of physics and biology that were laid down long before mammals even evolved. Rules that modern humans simply haven't learned yet.
So next time you are deep in the woods, far from cell service, and you feel that sudden primal realization of just how small you are, remember that you aren't just far from the city. You might be standing in a place that is playing by a completely different rule book.